Sir Peter Ricketts, well, as Emmanuel Macron prepares to take over as president next weekend, what are his priorities and what challenges will the Macron presidency face? Joining me now via webcam is James Shields, Professor of French Politics at Aston University. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us this afternoon. So how is he going to set about building that sort of power base that Sir Peter was talking about, the sort of power base he's going to need in the National Assembly?
Well, it's difficult, and Sir Peter referred to a key point, really, which is the division of France at the moment. This was a resounding victory, but it was a win partly by choice, because he was Macron, and partly by default, because he wasn't Le Pen. As president, Macron will have to deal not just with the 1 in 3 who voted against him by supporting Le Pen, he'll also have to deal with the 1 in 3 who either abstained or wasted their vote as a protest against the choice on offer. More than 4 million voters went to the polls just to vote blank or spoil their ballot. That's a huge protest and a record. So despite his 66% of the vote, Macron takes over very far from being the choice of most of the French. In fact, 4 registered voters only out of every 10 voted for him. And he'll have no honeymoon period at all, with crucial National Assembly elections now ahead of him in June.
So in terms of that stated aim of healing division, given the background, the picture that you've outlined there, how is he going to set about doing that?
It's very complicated. This election opens a period of intense uncertainty in French politics, and with political choices that are really complicated. France is no longer divided, as it used to be, into simple left and right. It now has 4 almost equal political camps: a nationalist, protectionist far right, Le Pen's, a centre-right, free market conservative bloc, Fillon's, although he's gone as leader, a liberal, pro-European centre-left, Macron's, and an anti-globalisation far left, Mélenchon's. This is the difficult landscape from which the new president must somehow forge a governing majority. How does he do that? He's well placed in the centre, and there's so far a lot of good feeling towards him on centre-left and centre-right. But I think that's evaporating now, because both the centre-right and the centre-left are drawing up their battle lines for the legislative elections. They are going to be key. They are going to tell us whether Macron can indeed implement his policy agenda, or whether he's going to be a reduced president who really has a role more of a kind of moderator over the government that will emerge from the National Assembly.
Let's talk then about his pro-EU credentials. What is that going to mean for the process of Brexit here in the UK?
Macron's victory is very good news for the European Union and for the euro. With Macron as president, we'll certainly see a strengthening of the Franco-German axis at the heart of the EU. That strengthening, in fact, already started when Chancellor Merkel took the unusual step of meeting Macron during the presidential campaign. Now, in terms of Brexit, Macron is clear that Brexit is very bad for Britain and bad for the EU. He's an Anglophile, but he has said that Brexit will turn the UK into a kind of Guernsey, a trading post on Europe's border. He also argued plainly in his presidential programme that anyone seeking access to the benefits of the EU had to be subject to its disciplines. So we can't expect that France has elected a president who will want to make any kind of exception or concession for Britain. Macron is deeply committed to further EU integration, arguing for a budget for the Eurozone, arguing for a finance minister for the Eurozone. So his thinking is going in exactly the opposite direction from the thinking of the British government as it tries to work out its strategy for the negotiations to come.
I just wonder what your thoughts are on his personality as he prepares to become president next Sunday. He's had a really interesting rise to power. His En Marche group largely untested and almost evangelical support for this new, young, hopeful, now the president-elect. Do you think that personality that we've seen throughout the campaign so far is going to be tested, really put to the test as he gets down to the real job of being the president?
It is going to be tested, and it's going to be tested possibly to destruction. At a time of widespread disaffection with elites, Macron is an unusual choice to emerge from this election. A graduate of France's most privileged educational establishment, a former banker turned technocrat and government economy minister, a pro-EU, pro-immigration liberal. He wants economic liberalisation, reform of France's sacrosanct labour laws, and a shrinking of the state, the very opposite of the big state, welfarist, protectionist programme that was offered by Marine Le Pen. Now, we can say this. Every president since Giscard d'Estaing in the 1970s has been elected on one platform only to end up governing on another. Macron has set out clearly how he intends to govern, and now he has a mandate to do it. And the French will not be able to say they didn't know what they were getting.
OK, Professor James Shields, Professor of French Politics at Aston University. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.